Fish and Wildlife Agencies, Secretary Tony Wadley and Commissioner David Ninch. Reports from the 2016 conference will be provided.
Would you like me to start, or you want?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead, please.
Commissioner Ninch.
So, talk about stealing thunder, you guys both tore it. So here's the actual award that the commission was given. So congratulations to all you guys. And the one thing that really didn't get said yesterday that needs to be said is that this is, you know, while we as a commission, I'm sure I speak on behalf of all of us, really appreciate the recognition. It truly is a reflection of the relationship that that the commission has with the agency. Because none of this happens without you guys and the work that you do. And bottom line is, you guys do all the dirty work for us. And this is a reflection of you guys making this look pretty good. So we appreciate the agency for that. And Tony, you're running a really nice, a really good ship. You guys are all doing a great job, and appreciate that. So this is a reflection of the whole system as much as it is. So with that, I will let you guys take over that. You know, this year's, I don't like to overwhelm too much. I get a lot out of these things when I go, and I get a lot of things roll around in my head, and I'm just going to share a few things that hit. Some of them are just kind of, you know, an interesting thing. Yeah, I've got like 60 3x5 cards, Brian. He has this little smile, and he's kind of like, what do you got?
I just haven't seen a my 6 index card like, I don't know how long.
That's all I have. This is all I have. Okay, then nothing's safe. Everything's gone. It's like talking about something. But anyway, during the commissioners committee, there was a lot of talk about the resolution that we adopted, and really out in front of that thing, and everybody was asking a lot of questions about the resolution and wanting to know. And I think that Jen has received quite a few phone calls from a number of western states to move forward with similar resolutions. And I can tell you that my interaction with commissioners from several of the other states, I think it's safe to say that there's probably 10 or 12 that are going to have a resolution in place fairly soon. There's probably 2 or 3 others that maybe have a little heavier lift, a little steeper hill to climb, but we're working with them to see if there's things that we can do to encourage those commissioners to and/or directors to pursue it as well. There was a director from Florida was there. He's going to take his take the resolution back east, and so I think this thing's really got the potential to go very broad. It's a good thing we changed that, Commissioner Johnston, to all wildlife agencies, not just one's part of WAPO, because it's going to be bigger than that. So, so that was a very positive thing. As far as the blue ribbon stuff, there is a House bill out there to move forward with the proposal, the recommendations of the blue ribbon panel, and they are looking for Senate sponsors to get a sister bill over in the Senate side. So there's a lot of work going on at that level with the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies is really working hard with the Blue Ribbon Panel to make that happen. The marketing firm, a major communication firm, has been brought on board, and I believe that it's the same firm that does Coca-Cola and a couple other major companies around the world. And they've agreed to do communication and help with this process pro bono. That's worth millions of dollars to this process. So you can see that there's a high level of buy-in at really significant levels. And just a quick reminder that there are 2 recommendations to this. One does have to do, and it's a shame that a lot of the folks that were in the room yesterday aren't here today, because I think it's important for people to hear this. There were 2 recommendations. One has to do with the money, but the other had to do with a recommendation that there be work groups together, which there has been, to assist agencies make a transition to recognize your broader constituencies. That was one of the real important recommendations that came out of that. Is there was a recognition that it is different, and it is something that the agencies need to be cognizant of. I think that we all do that as we move forward. It's not just about the money; it's about broader constituency and broader support for conservation. So that was, there was also an update on, there's a modernization bill going through for Pittman Robertson. So while we have the blue ribbon stuff on one side, there are some efforts going through to kind of modernize that Pittman Robertson, some of the provisions in there to help with recruitment, retaining, and reactivating shooters and hunters. So there's some work being done there. At the state level, I'll just throw out some interesting things. Life is, we cycle as commissions and states on things that are going on in our states. And just some interesting tidbits. There is a voter initiative to ban trapping on public lands in Montana. It took 4 times, but it's they actually have an initiative now, so that'll go to a vote. Oregon is they're revising a mountain lion plan, and they actually are asking the public to come forward and make presentations to their commission, which I thought was kind of an interesting thing. I'm not sure that that's real efficient, but it was an interesting thing. Arizona, I mentioned the borough thing with Arizona, but they also have, they were doing some fair chase work, which I think we need to get back to at some degree. They actually have evidence, they have a documentation of people fishing with drones, of all things. So where's it gonna end? I don't know. And as your National Enquirer interest, Idaho, they have a legislator that has proposed a law to reduce the fines for poaching because their constituents couldn't afford it. True story.
What state?
That would be in Idaho. And and I will put on the record, I think it's worth noting that the person that proposed that, the legislator that proposed that, has close relations with one of our Southern Nevada Republican state assembly people that she's running for a position, and it sounds like they are cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways. Anyway, thought that was interesting. On other news, there's quite a bit of work going on with the Endangered Species Act. There's proposed changes are going through to the actual act itself, through the Western Governors Association, and I'll just leave it at that. Maybe if Tony wants to expand. But on the other side of the coin, you have the Fish and Wildlife Service. They're taking action to streamline their processes, and these are actually as significant as anything to alleviate the backlog. They're getting a lot of pressure with the petitions that are put in. They're trying to do things. They're trying to set up some ways to improve the quality of the petitions by setting timeframes so that people would have to notify them that a petition is coming, and then they're working to improve the quality so that they don't clog up the system when they get them. Creating role for state agencies and incorporating them as so that they provide input into the 90-day finding period. That's a real important thing. That's something the states have been wanting for a very long time, and the Fish and Wildlife Service, it sounds like, is trying to incorporate that into a new process. So that's really important when it comes to the petitions being filed and accumulating the data to come up with these findings. And then they're doing a binning of petitions to assist with the prioritization, so they're kind of doing a triage up front to say, this one is probably more legitimate than this one, so we're going to put it on the fast track and get it done. So there's a lot going on with the Endangered Species Act, and I imagine we'll be hearing more about that. Back to the drone issue, there's evidence that, well, not evidence, but PETA has decided that drones are a good way to harass hunters. So we're getting, there's quite a few instances where some of the anti-hunting groups are using drones to disrupt hunting activities. So you can see there's a lot of, drones are, 1 million drones today, they're estimating there'll be over 7 million by 2020. So when it comes to the fair chase stuff, we're on the front edge. We need to get over the hump with some of that. And then Tony, there's one more note that I had, and it had to do, I walked into the meeting, to the committee meeting just a little bit late, and I didn't quite get all the information, but there's a big meeting, a worldwide meeting with a number of countries that happens once every 4 years. Is that CITES or is that something else?
I think it's something else. I think it's a International Congress on Diversity in Hawaii.
I don't know what it was exactly, but the interesting thing there is that there's an effort by a number of countries around the world to phase out the use of lead, and there's going to be some proposed language, and the United States has asked for that language to be softened a little bit so that they can be on board, and there's apparently no appetite for it. So it looks like there's a number of countries around the world that are going to draw a hard line on the use of lead, and the United States is going to be in a position where they might vote against it, and it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't type things. So not necessarily a bad thing to get lead out of the system, but just know that there's more conversation on that going on, and kind of an interesting development there. I'm not sure where that'll all go, but just something a little bit broader. So that's all that I have.
That's all.
That's all. That's all I have time for.
Now you know why I defer to Dave to go first. I'd just like to speak to it broadly. This is the program, if anybody wants to look through and see the types of meetings and schedule of events. I know that historically, as a field biologist, I didn't understand the value of some of these events and question the director's absence at certain times of the year. Let me just say that this is an invaluable opportunity, not only for me, for commission, and for staff participation, and for some of those reasons. Some of those reasons are that it allows us to learn some of these things that Dave's talking about. There's a number of opportunities to interface with our federal partners, but we can interface with those federal partners instead of 15 individual states. We can come together as states, share the challenges that we have, and then present a unified front. We can tackle a lot of these issues, urban wildlife issues, data management issues, wild horse and burrow issues, challenges with those federal partners, and I'll speak to some of those specific opportunities in the department activity report that's coming up. But the theme of this year's conference was Partners in Conservation. When we hosted last year, our theme was Landscapes in Transition, and talking about not only the actual transition of landscapes, but transition and how we're achieving conservation. The year prior to that was Water for Wildlife. So you have these conference themes where other states, federal agencies, partners come in and share some opportunities and challenges. This year we had an incredible plenary session where we had a researcher and one of the most incredible videographers share some of the video of long-term animal migrations and some of the challenges that they encounter along the way. And it wasn't necessarily new information to the people that were in the room, but the way that it was presented and the power that it had because it was such a graphic visual representation. When you see that the cow elk that has arthritis or has a bad leg trailing behind the rest, and you see the grizzly bears trailing, and what this video has done is it's directed an immediate national attention on the importance of migratory corridors. It's been shared with high-level officials in Washington, D.C. who have earmarked funding to learn more about corridors, to delineate those corridors and ensure that they continue as far as habitat connectivity overpasses. And so the opportunity to just be aware of those kinds of things, see those kinds of things. And then again, the theme, Partners in Conservation, a lot of discussion about partnerships, stakeholders, how to engage stakeholders to achieve more effective conservation, longer lasting conservation in the long term. As Commissioner McNitch indicated, the Blue Ribbon Panel, which is now, the legislation has been introduced, is co-sponsored by Republican Don Young from Alaska and Democrat Debbie Dingell from Michigan. It's Restoring America's Wildlife Act. A lot of discussion about that, what it means to states, states sharing ideas on how they may come up with a required match. The bill as introduced would not allow for tag and license fees to be used as match to get those federal dollars, so it would require states to come up with a novel way to generate, in our case, approximately $7 million to get approximately nearly $21 million. So to have those discussions, to have a venue, to have those discussions with other states is invaluable. The Endangered Species Act discussions, Commissioner McNinch referenced, these have been ongoing for a number of years, and really the primary focus is to formalize the state's role, empower the states to be a bigger part of the process earlier on, to allow the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to better triage that approach. Rather than have a frivolous petition that lists 300 plus species that forces the Fish and Wildlife Service hands, they're proposing Dave referenced it as a binning process. They're talking about five levels. They've reached out to us, and we've gone through some of those species, and we've been able to shed light on some of them for which maybe they didn't receive a petition but actually had a question on. We've been able to share data and have some of those species just removed from consideration. So it's all under the guise of empowering the states, making the states a bigger part of that process, and to that end, we've been very supportive and very involved with that. There's also some challenges that the states currently have with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in both New Mexico and Alaska. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has recently, in Alaska, they proposed a rule limiting predator control activities on national wildlife refuges. Many of the states are concerned about precedents and state management authority. That's being called into question, and WAFA provides a venue for those discussions. Also in New Mexico, the Fish and Wildlife Service chose to forego the development of a species management plan, and despite the state law that requires the service to have a permit in hand prior to releasing wolves in the state, released wolves in New Mexico. New Mexico is looking at legal channels to challenge that action. So again, this venue is invaluable, and I'll speak to some of the specific interactions in the department activity report. And again, congratulations to the commission for being recognized for your efforts and leadership.
Thank you, Director Mosley. Is there any questions?
I just have one more quick comment. Just on a personal level, I had an opportunity right at the end of the conference, kind of for those folks that were staying an extra night type of thing, to go out and watch the reintroduction of black-footed ferret. So it had it was wildlife conservation on the ground. It was the most critically endangered mammal. Is that fair enough to say? And first time in over 30 years that they had black-footed ferrets in the wild in Wyoming, and there's a real interesting story behind it if anybody's interested. But just to watch the collaboration that occurred between the wildlife agencies, the state agencies, the federal agencies, and the ranchers, the families involved on the ranch. It's a really cool story, and it really highlights, we don't talk enough about these things, but it really highlights the potential. And it can happen, things can happen, they can happen positively. These landowners are being asked to really go outside their comfort zone. They did it, and they were part of a very long collaborative process, and it was just a real positive thing to actually witness and be a part of. It was really cool. I've got a couple of pictures I'll show anybody that's interested. I didn't get them downloaded, so I can't send them. I had to bring my camera. So, but anyway, it was kind of a special deal. It was really unique. So it was kind of fun.
Mr. Chairman, Dave, you mentioned drones, and God, I just wanted to chip in. I recently attended a half-a-day demonstration was held down in southern Nevada about drones, and I guess the governor is, the state, what's it called, agency is attempting to make drones, the drone business in Nevada somewhat of a significant piece. And I don't know if we have actually somebody from NDOW that's getting involved in this. I'm too big of a fan of drones, but I had some amazing demonstrations. They showed me how they could be used. And one, for example, that's gonna get pretty quick is just radar for traffic. They'll fly over a freeway or hover over a freeway or a road, and, you know, the officers will have a station or command post where they're just simply tagging cars, get the speed, have the video, it all downloads, and they issue them a ticket in a pretty efficient way to write tickets. I'm not a big fan of writing tickets, but in wildlife, I think it does, I think we're gonna have to get with the program because it's common. You hear like PETA gonna interfere with hunts and stuff like that, and I just wonder, Tony, if we've got somebody, if it's Tyler or his group or somebody to get involved with that group and start, there's this old newscaster by the name of Ron Futrell. He's kind of introduced me to it. He's involved with it, and make sure that we're on top of it, because it's coming.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, if I might, you know, we engage with the Governor's Office of Economic Development. We engage with the governor and his staff at cabinet meetings, cabinet team meetings. We've had a number of private companies reach out to us. We've engaged with them. We are looking at we have used drones, and we're looking at more opportunities to do, for example, riparian vegetation assessment, raptor nesting. You know, perhaps there may be some patrol capacity there. I don't know. Currently, our concern is making sure that I mean, there's two sides to it. There's the capacity and tool to help us do our job, but then there's also the regulatory side of making sure that other people aren't using them to harass wildlife or gain an unfair advantage. And so we're trying to look at opportunities at the same time, not let things, you know, run out of control where there's an unfair advantage. So we are very engaged, very, very aware. Appreciate your comment.
Anything further? I just wanted to say something real quick and congratulate the commission on this and acknowledge Commissioner Drew's leadership was actually what most of this.
I agree with that.
Just acknowledge that, and I wish I would have been able to attend. I had planned a family vacation during that time period. I held up at the farm for the first 4 days of it and decided that the time was better spent with my family than to cut some more days out of it.
I did run into him on my way home.
Yeah. All right, thank you. I think we're gonna take a 15-minute break real quick here before we go on to the next agenda item.